Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Arise with Sally Goodwin on this Thursday morning. Very wintry morning in Cape Town. It's dark and cold and pouring with rain, but we have passed our winter solstice time, so we've had our shortest day of the year, and now we live in the knowledge, the hope and the knowledge that the days are going to get longer and the mornings are going to gradually get lighter and lighter. So I look forward to a time where we can do Arise with Sally Goodwin and you can be watching the sunsets again as you've done in the past. And a time where I come on at 7 in the morning and it's light and bright outside. Good morning, Ethne. Thank you for joining, my friend. So, yes, and don't we always live from that place of hope? But it's actually from a place of, good morning, Candace, lovely to see you. It's from a place of knowing what's coming. So we know that the seasons change. We know that winter is followed by spring, is followed by summer, is followed by autumn, is followed again by winter. And we know that the seasons continue and good morning, Martha, lovely to see you. And so we live in, so whilst we wake up on dark, cold and rainy mornings in Cape Town at this time of year, we know also that the rest is coming. It's a glorious day. Amen, Brenda. Thank you. Brenda says it's a glorious day. The manner of the Lord is new and fresh today. Amen. Because God is not put off by the fact. Good morning, beautiful Bertha. God is not put off by the fact that it's cold and raining. He's still the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And yeah, he's still the same. So we wake up in the mornings to the cold, miserable day, but we know, as I said, that we have passed our midwinter, that we've had our shortest day of the year. Good morning, Jen. And we now live from a place of hope and expectation that the days will get longer and the mornings will get lighter and brighter. And we have hope because we know we've seen the same thing happen every year of our lives. So for as long as we've been on earth, good morning, Jolene, lovely to see you. Good morning, Jen, lovely to see you, my friend. All my beautiful friends who are up. Thank you, Candace. I don't feel it, and I'll explain why in a moment. But all my beautiful friends who are up so early. So just for those of you who've just joined, I was just saying that it's a dark, cold and rainy day in Cape Town, but that we have had our shortest day of the year. And so we live in the hope and the expectation that the days are going to get longer and the mornings are going to get lighter and brighter. Yes, thank you for the reminder, Bertha. Please like and share. But we know that this will happen because we've lived through the same seasonal changes all the years of our lives. And for some of you, you've lived through less seasonal changes than I have, and some of you possibly have lived through more seasonal changes than I have. But you all have lived through seasonal changes, and so we live in a hope and the expectation of the seasons changing the way they've always changed. And yes, we make allowances for things like climate change and all of that sort of thing. But basically, the seasons follow their same rotation as they have for centuries. And that is something that we can stand on because we know pretty much that that is what is going to happen. And so when I wake up to this miserable morning, I don't focus too much on the miserable morning, but I focus on the fact that we've passed the worst points and we're moving ahead towards lighter and sunnier mornings. And that's pretty much, I guess, the way we need to approach things with the Lord. That things don't always look bright and sunny and sunshiny in our lives, but we serve a God who is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And so we can stand in the hope and expectation that what he has done before, he will do again. Because he's God, and there often seem to be things that make us question, his input and his control and his everything over things. And yet he's consistent. He's consistently God. And actually that's something that is quite solid to stand on that. And okay, so before I go any further, I want to read to you from Psalm 46. And I'm reading from the Scriptures translation, but I'm going to also just point something out in the Passion Translation and in the Amplified Version. So before I carry on, and you'll understand why I'm going along the track that I'm going on in a moment, but I want to read Psalm 46 to you. And if it's possible, wherever you are right now, I want you to just sit and let the words of Psalm 46 just wash over you. Okay, just let his word wash over you this morning. So Psalm 46. Elohim is our refuge and strength, a help in distress, soon found. Therefore we do not fear, though the earth reels and mountains topple into the heart of the seas. Let the waters rage and foam. Let mountains shake with its swelling. Selah. A river whose streams make glad the city of Elohim, the set-apart dwelling of the Most High. Elohim is in her midst, she does not topple. Elohim does help her when morning turns. The Gentiles shall rage, reigns shall topple. He shall give forth his voice, the earth melts. Yahweh of hosts is with us. The Elohim of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Come, see the works of Yahweh, the ruins he has wrought on the earth, causing all fighting to cease until the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariot with fire. Be still and know that I am Elohim. I am exalted among nations. I am exalted in the earth. Yahweh of hosts is with us. The Elohim of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. That is Psalm 46. And the reason, so over the last couple of mornings together, we've spoken about the fact that connection is restored and that there's been a restoration to favor. We have spoken about the puzzle pieces of our lives and going back to the original design. We have spoken about alignments and allegiances and all of those things, all under the same kind of heading of knowing and being a plumb line, of knowing that you're aligned to Jesus and making sure that in the space of being aligned to Jesus, that you're aligned to doing the things that Jesus wants you to do. And so we've been speaking about those things over the last few mornings. And so tomorrow morning, the 24th of June, is now, if the weather in Cape Town is the way it is now, we're not going to see any planetary alignment because there's going to be too much cloud. But according to the experts, if you have clear skies and you wake up an hour before sunrise, you will be able to see at least 5 of the 7 planets clearly in the night sky, particularly if you live in the southern hemisphere, which is where we live. And 2 of the planets will be too dim to see with the naked eye, but you will see at least 5 of the 7 planets aligned. And that is tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is set for the new planetary alignment. And according to the experts again, it will only happen again in 2140 or something. I might have got that year wrong, but it's like a long way away. And so it's just, so, we've been speaking about alignment regarding, especially in terms of planetary alignments and all of that kind of thing. And we've been talking about all of these things. And most of you know, because I've shared with you quite openly the struggles that I've been going through with my health. And just on a side note, I want you to understand that when I share these things with you, these things that I'm facing health-wise, I'm not looking for pity or for sympathy or anything, or oh, shame, poor Sally, I'm not looking for that at all. And I also understand that most of you who watch me first thing in the morning, that's not where you come from when you send me messages and you pray for me. And I truly do covet your prayers, and I really appreciate your prayers, all of you. So when I share these things about my health stuff, the reason I'm doing it is because God has called me to be authentic and vulnerable. And I'm not sure for all of you what circles you move in, believer-wise, or where your communities are, etc., etc. But as Christians, as believers, we are not always authentic and vulnerable. Particularly those of us who've come out of a very charismatic background, or those of us who've, been very, very clearly sort of, in the faith type movement. There's nothing wrong with either of those. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But there's nothing wrong with either of those, but there's a slant to those movements where it's almost as if you have something wrong with you, if you're struggling with something in your life, it's because there's something wrong. You have secret sin, or you haven't dealt with something, or you're carrying bitterness or unforgiveness, or, and so often for those of us who come out of charismatic backgrounds, or for those of us who come out of the sort of very intense kind of faith movement, there's this feeling sometimes that we have to put a brave face on everything, put a big smile on our faces. God is good all the time. We trot out the Christian cliches often to go with that. And we act as though everything is fine, even if we're dying inside, even if life is not going well, even if we are questioning ourselves, questioning God, questioning everything. And a long time ago, when God first called me to minister and to have a more sort of a public platform, he told me that I would need to be authentic and vulnerable in ways that I'd never been authentic and vulnerable before, and that I would never preach a message that I hadn't lived. And that is quite something, especially if you take into account the fact that I'm a prophet. So most of my messages are prophetic in nature, which means that I'm living through things that haven't even come to pass often, and then I have to put those things into words and articulate them on a public platform. And that is not always easy. And also often I think we look at the people, on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or wherever, and we assume that they have it all together because they have a public platform, because they, bring words from the Lord that sound, that are accurate or spot on, or whatever the word we like to use. We assume that they have it all together. And that is not the case. And if anybody ever tells you that's the case, then I would propose that possibly they are, if not outright lying, but then they are living in some version of reality that is not the truth. We live in this world, and we are not of this world, and we are seated in heavenly places and all of those things, but we do live in this world that is a fallen world, and there are things, life happens, to all of us, to good, to bad, to rich, to poor, to ugly, to evil. It happens to all of us. So that's when I share openly and authentically and vulnerably in these spaces. That is why. It's because I'm being obedient, not always because I want to necessarily unpack the things I'm struggling with. And right at this point in time, often what happens is I go through something, or God gives me a word on something, and I have time to process it before before I kind of bring it into this public space. There's like a time to actually process what's happened. I get to verbalize it with the Lord. I get to articulate it, and then I bring it. And at this point in time, God is literally, things are happening, and God is calling me to bring them to the public space. Without much processing time, I'm literally living it as I'm bringing it. And that, for me, speaks of the fact that it's a now word, that it's things that people are struggling with now, and that it won't help you if I bring this message, in 3 months' time or 4 months' time or 6 months' time, because you need to hear the message now because of what you're going through, all of you in your own lives. So that is to say, so this is where I'm coming from with all of this, is that yesterday, so most of you know, I'm sitting with diagnoses of primary lymphoedema, osteoarthritis, and fibromyalgia. Okay. All three of those, which are just, you just think, yo, okay. And so on Monday, it was Monday, yeah, I think I might have mentioned it on my Tuesday live. On Monday, I went and sat with a beautiful friend of mine who has an inner healing ministry. And I just said to her, listen, let's just go back and let's just make sure I've dealt with everything, And often when you deal with things with the Lord, you deal with them in layers, God removes a layer, and then you come back later when you're going through something else and he removes another layer. So, God he's kind and he's gracious, and he knows that we can't always just deal with everything all in one go. And so I sat with her and I dealt again with, trauma that I've lived through in my life, because even my doctor said, fibromyalgia is often caused by trauma. And I just went through that with her, and we just dealt with some of my generational stuff and my bloodline stuff, and not necessarily anything that I haven't dealt with before. It's all stuff that I've dealt with before, but we did it again, and we went, God removed another layer, and it was good. It was really, really good. And so on Tuesday, I actually felt a whole lot better. And then today's Thursday, right? Yeah. Yesterday, I went to, for an eye test, because my eyes, I'm 52. In fact, in 2 weeks today, I'll be 53. Can you believe it? And so I went for an eye test because my eyes, I've been very short-sighted from the age of about 6 or 7. I wore glasses. And then later on in life, when I was about 28, round about there, I had laser surgery, to correct my vision. So basically, I'm what the eye specialists call myopic. That's how bad my vision has been. I had laser surgery, and I had laser surgery before a lot was known about it. So, it's a case of, okay, nowadays we know now that you laser surgery, and it has developed. So if you've had it or you're still going to have it, I'm not putting you off, it's brilliant, but they're just some things that they didn't know about it when I first had it. And anyway, so I went to the eye specialist because I know my eyes have deteriorated significantly, and I know that I probably need glasses or something. And she did this whole incredibly thorough test on my eyes, and effectively the prescription in my two eyes is completely different. My right eye is just not good at all. But more than that, it appears that there's an enormous possibility that I will have to have cataract surgery, because there is a cataract on my right eye, which is actually obscuring my vision. Now, cataract surgery is not a big deal. I get that. It's complicated by the fact that I've had laser surgery on my eyes previously, apparently, but it's not a big deal. The point is, I'm 52. I'm 52, which is quite young for that sort of thing. And she said to me that, it is more common in patients with myopia and all that kind of thing. But I just sat there, and she gave me, I need to go for another check with somebody else. But she's basically saying to me, and she's amazing, an incredible ophthalmologist, a believer. She's amazing. But she's basically saying to me, listen, pretty much it's pretty definite. We're going to try this and try that first, but if we can't get your vision to be more kind of closer to 20/20 rather than what it is, it's something you're going to have to do. And any one of these things on their own, I feel like I could cope with it. But all of these things added together, I got in the car afterwards, and to be honest with you, I just felt angry. I was just, and fed up and so frustrated. Just like, Lord, like, where are you? What is going on? Like, it's, that thing where you just like, it's not fair. This is just not fair. I'm doing the best I can here. I'm being obedient. I've sacrificed so much to be obedient to you and walk the road that you have called me to walk. And it's like, and now this, just another thing, like another thing to have to deal with, another issue to have to, I felt so frustrated and so angry and so disappointed, just really disappointed in God, just like, what good is all of this? and you know what? The amazing thing is that God has really broad shoulders, and he can cope with all of this, and God can actually cope with us being honest with him. He copes better with us being honest with him than by us, putting a smile on our faces and bringing out our most religious prayers and standing before him and saying, it's okay, it's all good, I can deal with this because I'm like a martyr to the faith. He deals with honesty better than that. Honesty where you just like, I don't understand this and I'm disappointed in you right now. He deals with that okay. He's okay with you being honest about your feelings. He knows what they are anyway. And he's okay with you being honest about your feelings. And so he doesn't object to that. That's not an issue that he has. But he would rather we were honest about how we're feeling than retreat into our little religious box and act as if everything's fine. And I just said to him yesterday, I said to him, Jesus, I have fibromyalgia, I have osteoarthritis, I have lymphedema, and now you're telling me that I'm going to have cataract surgery at 52. Really? Is this the best you can do? Like, is this the best you can do for me? And yesterday, I'm just being honest with you, I was miserable. I was supposed to be recording all day today for Life CBN, and I messaged Stuart, and I said to him, I can't record today. My heart is not there. I can't bring messages about Jesus. And when I'm sitting in this place where I'm just so disappointed and frustrated and a little bit angry, at this. And it's not that I wish it on anybody else. And I have my eldest son has been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and he's now been told that he has double diabetes, type 1 and type 2 together. My youngest son is struggling with panic attacks. My middle boy is, they're all going through stuff. And I'm like, I'm trying to, be there for them. And it's just a lot. It really is. It's just a lot. And then God gave me Psalm 46. And he gave me Psalm 46, verse 5. Which says, Elohim is in her midst, she does not topple. Elohim does help her when morning turns. I want to read that to you from the Passion Translation. Psalm 46, verse 5. God is in the midst of his city, secure and never shaken. At daybreak, his help will be seen with the appearing of the dawn. And then I want to read it to you from the Amplified. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God will help her right early at the dawn of the morning. So let's look at that, because so the other translations just say, God is within her, she will not fall. That's another translation. God is within her, she will not fall. Now we know that in the Psalm, they are speaking about Jerusalem. They're speaking about the city of Jerusalem. God is within her and she will not fall. God is within her and she will not topple. God is within her, all of those things. However, we all know that Jerusalem did fall more than once. It fell and was completely razed to the ground. The temple in Jerusalem was completely razed to the ground. Jerusalem has fallen. It's been besieged, many times. And yet the psalmist says God is within her. She will not fall. And I'm just like, Lord, this is not comforting. I know about the history of Jerusalem. This is not comforting. But you understand what he's saying. He's saying that even though Jerusalem has fallen many times, and even though today still there's a section of the old Jerusalem that is still going, but so much of it has been conquered and never restored. Even though the temple was razed to the ground and has never been rebuilt again since then. Even though all of that has happened, God is still in her midst, because Jerusalem and the temple is no longer a place where we have to go to see God. We don't have to go to a temple to seek the Lord. We don't have to go to a city to seek the Lord. We can seek the Lord from right where we are, because God is within us. God is within us. And so what God was saying to me is that I am within you, Sally. You will not topple. You will not fall. You might feel like you've fallen. You might feel like you're toppling. You might feel like you're shaking. You might feel like you're not standing on solid ground. But I am the Lord. I am the same. Yesterday, today, and forever. You will not fall. Now, let's just be honest again. Right now, as I say these words to you, I'm not feeling them enough. I'm not feeling them particularly. I'm standing on something because God has told me about it. And so I'm saying to him, okay, Lord, this is your message for me. I'm holding on to it. But I need to process it with the Lord. I need to sit with him and go through it. I need to reach the point where it's not just in my head. It's moved into my heart. It's way down deep in my spirit, where I can stand up and say, God is within me. I will not fall. No matter what the world throws at me, no matter what the enemy throws at me, I will not fall, because God is within me. And that is something that I'm not there yet. But I felt as though God was saying, and normally, as I said, I would only share this once I figured it out myself. But I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And, it's my turn to preach at my church this morning, and the other leaders reached out to me and they were like, you don't have to. If you're not there, you don't have to. And I was actually going to say, you know what? Like, I'm not in this good enough space to preach right now, and then the Lord was just like, no, I'm sorry, are you allowing the enemy to win here? Like, you're not standing. And that was why I started off by saying, we can wake up to miserable, rainy mornings, and we know that we have the hope and the expectation that the seasons have turned. We've been past the shortest day. The mornings will start to get lighter. Spring will come, summer will come. We know this because these are the seasons we go through. But at the same time, I know what God has done for me before. I know where he's come through for me before. And I need to be able to stand on that with the same hope and expectation that I stand on the fact that the sun will rise in the morning, even though I can't see it because the clouds are so heavy. That the planets are going to align tomorrow, even though I might not be able to see them because of the weather. I need to stand on the fact that spring will come, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. Summer will come, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. I have to stand on God the same way that I stand on those things because I know them. I need to know God the same. It says there's Psalm 46 verse 10 is a verse that we all know. It's the verse that says, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. The Amplified says, let be, and be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Passion Translation says, surrender your anxiety. This is the Passion Translation, Psalm 46 verse 10. Surrender your anxiety. Be silent and stop your striving, and you will see that I am God. I am the God above all the nations, and I will be exalted throughout the whole earth. In the scriptures, it says, be still and know that I am Elohim. I am exalted among nations. I am exalted in the earth. And we all know the translation that just says, be still and know that I am God. And you know, I was just looking into that a little bit, and Anne Hamilton says that in this verse, the word know, so be still and know, the word know is the Hebrew word yada, Y-A-D-A. And she says it's not about intellectual recognition or acquaintance of the heart. It's all that and more. It's about deepest level of intimacy. Know, the word know is in the sense of covenant. It's about the oneness of covenantal love. So when God says, be still and know that I am God, he's not saying no. Sometimes our English interpretation just isn't enough to actually encapsulate everything that is meant in the Hebrew. So he's not saying, be still and know in your head that I am God. When he says, be still and know, be still and yada, what he means is that it is about a deep level of intimacy. Be still and enter into this deep level of intimacy with me. Be still and enter into a sense of covenant with me. Be still and know that this is about the oneness of covenantal love. Be still and know that this is about the oneness of covenantal love. So not only do I have Psalm 46 verse 5 that says God is in her midst, and I love that they use her, because they're referring to a city, so they say her, but it just brings extra impetus to the verse when it says her. God is in her midst, she will not fall. And then a little bit further down, be still and know in the deepest level of intimacy, in the deepest sense of covenantal love, be still and know that I am God. And so in all of this, with all of these diagnoses, with all of the things that I'm facing, with all of this, and I'm not saying at all that I'm okay with all of this or that I'm all right, well, I am not. But in all of this, I've learned as well, a long time ago, I listened to a message from Graham Cook. Some of you might know Graham Cook, a long time ago. And he said there in one of his messages, and I can't even remember what the context was or anything, but God dropped it into my spirit this morning. He said that we ask God the wrong questions. So often, as soon as things happen to us, the first thing we say is, why me? Why me? Why me, Lord? Why me? There's so many evil people on the earth who live, these evil lives and seemingly unaffected by anything, by illness or disease or, anything. And Graham Cook says, and this, as I said, was a long time ago, but he said something along the lines of, instead of saying, why me, Lord? Try asking questions like, what are you telling me? What are you teaching me? And before you all jump on your religious high horses, I'm not saying that God makes one ill. I'm not saying that he brings sickness and disease. I'm not saying any of that. But I am saying that God uses the things that come against us and he turns them for good, even if it doesn't feel like it. And so he uses whatever comes into your life. It might not be from God, but God will use it if you allow him to. And so sometimes when we go through these things, it's a case of saying, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to teach me? What are you trying to do here, Jesus? And for me, and I shared this before, a lot of it is at the moment is he's speaking about focus. And he's saying to me, Sally, you need to be narrowing your focus. You've got your fingers in too many pies. And they're things that I know he's asking me to lay down, and I'm resisting. I'm resisting because I love my things. I love the things that I'm involved in. I love all the different pies that I have a finger in. I love them. I love all of them. And so I think in some part of me, I'm trying to get around it. God, if I cope with this better, then, and I don't complain and then maybe I don't have to, but he's being very clear. And he's done this before to me when he's asked me to lay something down. And I've resisted and resisted and resisted. And eventually he said to me quite clearly, you're about to step into disobedience. Because God will give you grace for a period of time. And then eventually when you haven't, there's someone who says, I can't remember now who it is, who says that delayed obedience is the same as disobedience. And that might not be 100% true, but you know, if you don't obey God correctly, if you don't obey God fairly immediately, or if you don't obey God immediately, let's just say it like it is, you basically are being disobedient. But God is gracious and He's kind and He gives us grace and He tells us the same thing over and over again in a variety of different ways. And then when we still like, Lord, I just need one more confirmation, I just need one more, you know, eventually, as He said to me one time, it's happened one time, but He said to me, you're about to step into disobedience. And you know, and so all of these things are just, it's instead of saying, why me, Lord, which I have to be honest is what I was saying yesterday, and just this sense of such frustration and disappointment, instead of that, I need to be sitting with the Lord and saying, Lord, how are you going to use these things to bring me into a deeper level of intimacy with you? How are you going to use these things to demonstrate to me the oneness of covenantal love? How are you going to turn this all for good in my life? How do I ask you the right questions about what's going on? How do I ask you the right questions? How do I reach a point where I'm just like, okay, Lord, what are you trying to say? Or what are you trying to say to me? What am I meant to be learning? Or what are you teaching me? Or you know, or what is going on? And you know, I'm a prophet called to the body, and I have found, and you can roll your eyes at this because you know, not everyone believes this, but I have found that things have happened in my body previously that where God has been trying to speak to me about the body, about His church, body of believers. And again, I'm not saying He brings these things on in order to make a point, but He uses them to make a point. And you know, if you read the Old Testament prophets, He called them to do some crazy stuff. So I don't know that we would get off scot-free today. And I'm not the only one. I've heard many prophets, particularly female prophets, speak about things where things have happened in their body. There was one, Stacey Campbell, where her teeth actually fell out her mouth. Her teeth fell out her mouth. But God was trying to tell her something. I forget what He was trying to tell her. But and so I look at this and I just think, yeah, you know what? The lymphedema, the lymphatic system is not moving the toxins out of the body. The body of Christ in so many areas is so toxic, and we are being particularly slow in removing those toxins. You just have to look at what's happened with the Southern Baptists in America, and all the years of abuse of women that is starting to come out now. You know, the church is taking far too long to remove the toxins. You look at the fibromyalgia, pain points are triggered out of trauma. You know, the church has been through some traumatic stuff, and we have pain points that are triggered, and instead of acknowledging them and dealing with them, we put a big smile on our faces, we go to church on a Sunday, we pretend everything's hunky-dory, and we just live in some kind of Christian denial. You know, you look at the osteoarthritis, some of my joints are degenerating. There are some parts of the body that are degenerated, one would think even beyond repair, actually. And then there's this cataract thing, this thing that my eyes are not seeing. Well, you would have to be, you know, to be able to actually say that that there is a large portion of the church that is not seeing clearly. Their spiritual lenses are clouded and milky. It's almost like a veil has dropped between them and the revelation God is bringing. They are just not seeing clearly. And that we can all see that. And you know, all of these things, like this, all of these diseases that I have are diseases that there's no natural cure for. They're things that you do the best you can to get by. And is that not what the church does? Do we not just do the best we can to get by? When actually what we need is for God to move supernaturally. So the only way I will get healing, the only way is supernaturally. Unless medical technology moves, you know, and suddenly they discover new things. But the only way I will get healing is supernaturally, is if God replaces my degenerating joints with new joints, if God cleanses out my lymphatic system completely, if He removes the milky stuff from my eyes. You know, that's the only way that I will get healing. There's nothing, I mean, the cataracts can be removed by a doctor, but you know what I mean. There's nothing that anybody can do for me except God. And I think the church is in a space where there's nothing anybody can do for the church except God. But we have to be able to be saying to him, what is it that you're trying to do, Lord? Instead of being like, why us? Why are numbers dwindling? Why are people leaving the church? Why are people walking away from God? Why are there so many unchurched people? Why, instead of asking those questions, maybe we should be like, what are we doing wrong, Jesus? What is it that we should be doing that we're not doing? What is it that you're trying to tell us, that you've been trying to tell us for centuries, that we've just ignored? What is it that we should be doing, Jesus? And that's where we are. So whatever you are facing today, I want you to know that God is within you and you shall not fall. And you might feel like you've already fallen. You might feel like you're flat on your face on the ground. You might feel like that. But in God's eyes, you have not fallen because he is still there. He is still with you. He is still within you. No matter what the world is throwing at you, no matter what the enemy is throwing at you, God is within you and you will not fall. And then the second thing I want you to remember is to be still and know that he is God. That he is God. We are not. So there's some things that we won't understand this side of eternity because we are not God. As much as we try to be so many times, we are not. He is God. And he is leading all of us into a deeper level of intimacy, into a oneness of covenantal love. No matter what our outside circumstances look like, no matter what our world circumstances look like, no matter what our natural circumstances look like, it is God's desire to use whatever you are going through to lead you into a deeper level of intimacy and into the oneness of covenantal love. And so I just want to leave that with you this morning. I just want to decree and declare that the veil has been torn and you are able to see and hear from the Lord as clearly as anybody else. I want to decree and declare that you get to live a life of authenticity and vulnerability, and no longer do you have to paste the happy Christian face or the happy Christian smile on your face and pretend that everything's okay. I want to decree and declare over you that God is within you and you will not fall. I want to decree and declare over you that God that is calling you into a deeper level of intimacy and into the oneness of covenantal love. And that as the planets align in the sky, we are all moving into an alignment with Jesus. And the less we resist, the better for all of us. So I just speak that over your lives, each and every one of you today. And I receive that for myself. And I'm not there, as I've said to you. I'm not. But I am. But I'm standing on a God that is always the same and is consistent. Even though things don't feel consistent in my life right now, he is consistent. And I stand on that. The same way that I know that the seasons will change and spring will come, the same way that I know that God will come through for me in whichever way he chooses to do so. And I need to be okay with that and embrace the oneness of covenantal love with him in the interim. So I just bless you with all of that. And yeah, I just bless you to be still and know that he is God. And that God is within you and you will not fall. So I love you all. I bless you all. I'm going to go now because we're about to have load shedding. And I shall see you again next Tuesday at 7 a.m. And if you missed my live CBN on Tuesday evening, you can watch it this evening at 5:30 or Saturday at 1 o'clock. And yeah, I'm trusting that some of you will get to see the planets lined up. But I'm not so sure that we'll get to see it here in Cape Town. Anyway, love you all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for resonating. Thank you for liking and sharing. Bless each and every one of you.